For hosting us and partnering with us each year for this. Especially like to thank Leanne Haight, who's I think right here in the back. Leanne, thank you very much for helping you organize. Yeah, thank you. Of course, we want to thank Sandy McCoy and the Chamber Singers, the Culinary Arts class. How about a special round of applause for them? I'd like to thank the criminal justice program that they have here for helping us with parking. Also like to thank Evan Schaffner. He's the guy behind the Wizard of Oz, kind of right in the corner here, the IT guy, so we really appreciate that. Also, you know, we can't do these events through the Chamber of Commerce without the support of our members and our sponsors. So a big round of applause to the sponsors you see in your program and up here on the screen. Thank you. We have some media partners that we'd also like to thank. We're broadcasting through 90.9 WFCO. We have Josh in the back, so a big thanks to him for broadcasting today's program. Also, a big thank you for the Lancaster School Network and Scott Burke for videoing today's program and playing it and producing it for LSN. Want to thank the Chamber of Commerce staff and our volunteer, Michelle Storch, so thank you for helping us put this together and with registration today. Big thanks to those gals. And also want to thank our sponsors, our presenters for being here today, taking time out of their busy schedules to give us a little flavor for what's going on in the school systems. You know, the Chamber of Commerce recognizes the importance of education and building a strong workforce here in Fairfield County. Events such as this such as the State of the Schools allows us to showcase to the business community the efforts of our local educators and our students. And I think you'll see there's some amazing things going on. I'm going to go ahead and get started by introducing our speakers, which I'm proud to introduce today. We have J.B. Dick, Superintendent for Amanda Local School District. We also have Rick Zabrak, our Fairfield County Economic Development Director, and Superintendent of Lancaster City Schools, Steve Wigden. So without further ado, our first speaker, Mr. J.B. Dick.
First, I'd like to thank Mr. Mark Wood and the Fairfield County Lancaster Chamber of Commerce for inviting me. And I will start this with, I can assure you I will not be as entertaining as the chamber singers or as good as the culinary delights that we had today. So thank you to all of those who helped make today possible. At Amanda Clear Creek, to give you a little background, I was a superintendent there from 2001 to 2008. I resigned and did some other things for a while. Then had this crazy idea of going back in July of 2017. Get questioned every day where my sanity was and what was I thinking about. And the most important thing I think about was I have a great deal of pride in that community. I moved my family to that community 20 years ago, and I lived in that community with the exception of 1 year, which was last year. I had another great move. I sold my house in November of 2016 and bought another one in 2017 to move back into the district. Just a little bit about Fairfield County, or Amanda Clear Creek Schools, and I gotta be real careful. I have community members in here, so I'm gonna try to make sure I'm as accurate as I can be. So we are the second largest geographical school district in Fairfield County. And yesterday morning, it makes mornings like that wonderful to make decisions about canceling school or calling off, delaying. I've told this many times. in some ways, calling off school is probably one of the biggest, most difficult decisions I have because of the amount of people you affect. People plan their day around what we do, and then when you mess it up, it's not a good time. People talk about our new schools. This is our 15th year that we've had a group of students say, well, we graduated from our new facility, and our 13th year for our K-2 building. Many times our people come in, Channel 10 came in and did a little segment with our ELA students a couple weeks ago. They could not believe we're 15 years into it, how good it looked, and we're very proud of the fact that we do take care of what we have. And I told someone shortly after we moved in, somebody said, well, you might have built them, but you won't be able to operate them. And we're finding that out, but we weren't 7 years into before we needed anything operationally. As we are well aware of now, safety has become a priority for us. And I didn't think about them being here, but I would like to thank the Sheriff's Department for what they've done with us in regards to their help with us. And I call upon them very often as it's become the new greatest concern that we have. We talk about our buildings 15 years old. We have things now in place that we never expected 15 years ago. Our technology, our security pieces that we had in place are not where they need to be. So we are working with them to try to keep us updated as best we can. Obviously, we've taken many, many steps in regards to creating new safety measures, and I speak constantly with our leadership team that it's a priority each and every day. It's obviously the most important thing we have to deal with in regards to our students. When I asked Mr. Markwood about what am I supposed to talk about, every bullet point you're going to see, Mr. Markwood brought it to me. So if it's not good, it's Mr. Markwood told me this. One of the things we're trying to do is create a NACES Academy. One of the things I had noticed when I came back after being gone for 9 years was that we need to educate our students differently than we used to. And one of the things we have tried to do is try to figure out how to get our students who have left to go online learning, to bring them back to Amanda Clear Creek. When ECOT closed their doors in January, I contacted each and every student's parents to find out if they would be interested in coming to Amanda Clear Creek. All, with the exception of 2 of them, said they would come back to us in a heartbeat if we had an online academy. And then the other 2 said, I wouldn't come to your place no matter what you did. So I kind of had an idea real quick where we had problems somewhere along the line. So, but our biggest concern now is we have 37 kids currently online students, which doesn't sound like a lot to you, but when $6,000 goes along with them, that's a huge piece for us. Now, obviously, if we bring them all back, we don't get every bit of that dollar, but we do there's a need there to bring them back. And a lot of them are more than willing to say they want the Amanda Clear Creek diploma. Another issue we're dealing with is the workforce development. The last 2 years I have worked at the Eastern Fairfield Career and Technical School's adult workforce. During that time, I realized that K-12 has probably done not the best job in regards to creating any type of workforce for the past, well, at least 15 years, because career readiness was pushed down our throats in regards to it had to be a college degree. You had to have a college degree, and manufacturing took on a different look, and it was never encouraged or encouraged very little. And as I worked with the workforce development, I realized that we have students who are coming to us at the adult level that had they had something to choose from other than college prep, per se, they would have elected to go that route. So one of the things we're working with this year to implement in 2018-19 will be we're creating I got to read it, it's a Manufacturing Skill Standards Council, MSSC. From that, we will be able to offer our students credentials in the manufacturing and logistics. Jennifer Johns, who works with or owns Midwest, brought it to our attention because we have kids who leave our district who, it's a half a mile from our building that we could introduce them to, create a great job for them. But in addition, the certificate creates them opportunities, makes them marketable. Honda recognizes it. Many of the warehouses in Groveport recognize it. And we're just trying to create that path for those kids who are not interested in going to college. And believe me, we have kids who don't want to go to college. And we got to make sure we address that community. The one-to-one initiative, we currently have one-to-ones at the 6th through 8th. And starting in 2018-19, we all 9 through 12 students will have one-to-ones. We use the Chromebooks. The K-5, we have a laptop cart in every classroom, so they basically can be on a laptop anytime they want to as well, laptop as well. So we're very proud of the fact that we have started that process. Obviously, it's a very expensive endeavor, and as I mentioned the levy here later on, that's one of the things that we hear and discuss with our community because of the cost and the expense of it. Just a little bit of state report card data. You won't see anything other than what I picked out, okay? So there are some things we weren't real successful on, and there were some things that we were more successful on. So I want to highlight those particular items. We met the gifted areas in all three progress report, which means it's measured on what the student grows from one year to the next. And the three areas are the students with disabilities, the 20% lowest achievement students, and the gifted students. And we were fortunate enough to get an A on all three areas. So we're very proud of the fact that our kids are learning. In spite of what goes on, what you hear, what you see, our kids are learning. And that's obviously what we're charged with. Our primary building received a B in the early literacy, which means how we prepare them to get to the third grade reading test and how successful we are when we get there. The elementary, we won the Momentum Award 2 years in a row. That's awarded by ODE. And again, it's an award that is given to districts who have made progress from one year to the next in regards to yearly growth. And because we were successful at all three of those areas, that is the reason we were awarded the Momentum Award. Middle school, the only school district in Fairfield County that met the gifted indicator on the state report card. And then we offer advanced ELA and math classes at the middle school level. I missed a slide somewhere. The high school, we had a graduation rate for four-year students. That means how many completed it in 4 years and how many completed it in 5 years. We got an A for those students who took 5 years to do it, which is a good positive for us in regards to that our students continue to come back and complete it as opposed to walk away from it. And then we had a B in our 4-year graduation rate. The capital improvement projects, we got a couple of them going on. Those of you who are familiar with Amanda Clear Creek realize on our very first opening day, our open house for the community to find and look at our new buildings. It rained and we had a leak, and we've had a leak since 2003. So, and we've dealt with more and more leaks since 2003. So that's always a great thing when you take taxpayer money, build a new building, and then have it leak. So one of the things that happened in October is that the Ohio Facilities Construction Committee came to us and said, we're willing to help you put a new roof on your building. So we look at it as a positive in regards to going back to the ballot box in May, because obviously we're trying to protect what they've invested into this point. OSFC is committing $3.8 million to this roof, and hopefully we're going to come in right at $3.8 million. So we appreciate what they did for us to this point. I just told Mr. Wigton before we started, when we built the buildings, it was an 85-15 split. It was a $40 million project. They paid for 85% of it. Well, the roof came to be, and they stayed with the game with us and agreed to pay 85% of it. So we're very appreciative of what they've done. I bring up the Music Boosters building because they're building their own building, and I always hate to have new buildings under construction when you're trying to pass an operating levy. So anybody sees anybody that wants to know, the band boosters are paying for 100% of the building, okay? So as you see a building being built, we're very proud of the fact that the band boosters were able to even do it. So, and then I make this comment because we're adding on 2 restrooms. And this is a big deal for us because this restroom is going to cost us $5,000. And we had at the board meeting, we had to discuss whether we should spend $5,000 for 2 restrooms. We spent $2,500 on porta-johns last year. I think it's a pretty good trade-off that we, and I know how many of you will appreciate that if you ever have to use the porta-john. So we're very proud of our band boosters to do what they've done for us. Some of the things that I'm very proud of that are co-curricular and extracurricular ideas. FFA, we have 220 members out of a student population of 460 kids at the high school. So it's a very strong group. Alumni association with it is incredible. They've helped with so many things that without the community, they do community hours beyond you can imagine. They've won several state awards, and recently we've had the top 4 finish in the nation. So we take great pride in the FFA program. The band, I mentioned the band concession stand. In 2001, I was hired as a superintendent there, and we had to hire a band director. And we brought this woman in, and I said, what would be a good marching band number for Amanda Clear Creek? And she said, I think we can get it to 60 marching kids. And I said, great. Because that fall, before she came, we marched 15 kids on a Friday night. Almost to the point we had to decide whether we're going to continue with it or not. You felt sorry for those kids because so few of them, and they were trying their best, given the time that they could. This fall, she will march, I think she told me 87 members, playing members, and 14 auxiliaries. So we're very proud of the fact that we've grown the arts a little bit, not just with the band, but our choir as well. Extracurricular, the athletics, we just recently won the girls basketball district championship, and then as you hear it many times, I could hire an English teacher next Monday night at the board meeting and I won't hear one thing about it, but we hired a new football coach, and by golly, that got everybody's attention. So we hired Mr. Dalton from Burn Union, who will be our next football coach. And he asked me during the interview, he said, JB, why do you think football is not like it was when, 15 years ago? And I said, well, we haven't won a playoff game in 8 years. We won 2 state championships, and there's not a kid alive today in our buildings who were alive when they won it, but they're all convinced they won it last Tuesday. And I said, if you don't, our work ethic in regards to what was expected and what was done in those years has disappeared, and it's become okay to be okay. I said, you still want the job? So Steve was delighted to take it, so we're very happy to have him. As I mentioned, in May 8th, we'll be on the ballot for our tax levy for operating expenses. We have no permanent improvement levies. All we have are the money we collect for our bond issue to pay for the building. It's a 1.5% earned income tax. It's a 5-year. This will be it's either our 6th or 7th try to renew. It's a daunting task. We have issues and concerns, decisions that have been made, people are concerned about, and they use any excuse in the world to vote no. However, one of our biggest issues is if you were to go on ODE's webpage and look at our 5-year forecast, and you see $13.2 million in a cash balance for a district of our size that has a $17 million budget, it's very difficult to sell. However, over the next 4 years, it'll be gone. So that's the reason we're trying to catch up to that, so we don't run out. it was on the front page 2011 of all the cuts that we had to make and all the threats. And it's our attempt now to make sure that we don't have to get to that point, because we have a business. I'm not saying it's a business in the fact that we have to educate students. We need to educate students, and many of the things that we do require the almighty dollar. You know that, and as anybody in education would tell you, 99.9% of all questions are answered with money, and that's where we are with this. So it's our job to create a trust in the fact that the money will run out, and we need to start collecting now so that there's not a gap in the time that we collect it and the time that we're depleted. Oh, is that I'm done? That's the reason I didn't get, I learned a valuable lesson. I saved it to my desktop, and I thought I was saving it to I saved it to my flash drive, and I didn't save it to the one I sent you. So I do want to thank you. I told, one time I went to an alumni banquet at Amanda Clear Creek, and Charlie Kinzer spoke. He's a very well-known community member. And he looked at me and he says, "Boy, the best way to be a good speaker is to stand up to be seen, be loud to be heard, and be brief to be liked." Thank you.
Today. Yeah. So first off, if you see her today, wish her a happy birthday. I don't know why you'd see her. She also likes cash. So cash is good. But I looked at her, she's sitting in her high chair, and I said, "Honey, you're 1 now. You need to start deciding what kind of career pathway you want." She threw her bottle down and started laughing at me. So at least, we're connecting. But that's where we are. It's never too early to start thinking about careers, and what Mr. Dick said earlier is great. Amanda's really been progressive with how they're thinking about workforce. We were doing a manufacturing day event last year, and there were a group of juniors. They just, toured some manufacturers, and I asked everybody, what are you looking to do for a career? And everybody had their answers, and one individual, his name was Dylan or Jacob or one of these trendy names. We'll call him Denver. So Denver says, "I'm going to join the military." I'm like, "Okay, that's a great pathway. That's great." When we were done with the day, Denver, it's clearly not his name, but Denver comes up to me and says, "How do I get a job in manufacturing?" I said, "Well, you can talk to them and da-da-da-da-da." But I said, "I thought you were joining the military." And these are his words. He said, "Well, I'm not really brain smart, but I'm good at doing things. And I'm not going to go to college, and I just didn't feel like there was anywhere else I belonged. And the military came in, and they told me I had a place there." Because it wasn't until today, when I was at that manufacturer, where I saw somebody that looked like me and felt that's what I could do for a living. So that's kind of where we're at. How do we prepare students to see that, to see these options that are out there? So right now, there's a workforce gap. We're looking at 619 available jobs in the Lancaster area. These are full-time jobs. More than half of those only require a high school degree. Less than a quarter require a bachelor's degree or greater. Now, that said, we know, obviously you get to Columbus, higher education, jobs are there, more plentiful, and you're going to get higher pay. But in Fairfield County, this is what the landscape looks like right now. These individuals with less than a bachelor's degree are making around 30 to 79K are what these jobs are posted at. So they can clearly make a living. These are jobs in administration, sales, manufacturing. So what's happening out there? So right now in Fairfield County, 94% of our students graduate high school. That's amazing. The state average is 80. So I want to do a round of applause because every parent, every teacher, every administrator is a big part of that number. So then what happens? They graduate, about 70%, and this is a national average, about 70% go off to college. We don't have specific local numbers for that. And out of that, 57% in Ohio graduate college. So now you're dropping 43% of those out. Out of those that graduate from an Ohio college, a third of them within 3 years leave the state. So what does that look like? Out of 100 students, by the time they go through high school, or if they don't make it through high school, go to college, don't go to college, don't graduate college, leave after they graduate, only 25 of them are college graduates working in Ohio. So that's 75 that either leave the state or are here without a college degree. So it's a lot of individuals that we need to look at to say, how are we preparing them for the workforce? So let's look at Fairfield County. Once again, 94% graduates, but a third of those, or 30% of those, don't go on to further their education. That's about 628 students in our county that aren't going off to college. So what are they doing? They're looking for jobs. Maybe careers, but probably jobs. Nationally, 17% unemployment for recent high school graduates. 30% are unemployed or underemployed, meaning they're not working, enough hours or making enough wages. So if you look at these numbers, you think back a couple slides, we have these jobs, we have these students graduating. How do we connect them? What are we doing to make sure that we can fit our employers' needs? That's a critical thing. So how did we get here? Well, as we said earlier, who recruits in high schools? Military and colleges. Counselors, advisors, they spend time talking to students about careers, but nobody's in there recruiting, banging on desks saying, this is what careers are available for you. And now when I say careers, I don't say careers or college. It's a pathway. You can have a career and go to school at the same time. You can have a career and go to school in 2 years. As Mr. Dick said, not everybody is ready for college right out of high school. So how do we identify those and make sure that we find a proper pathway for them? And it's the expectation levels. This was in 2010, I'm sure it's higher now. 92% of parents expect their children to go to college. It was only 52% in the early 80s. So that just becomes an expectation. And I have 3 children, I expect every one of them to go to college. It's just an expectation. But I'm starting to think differently to say, but when do they go to college? And oh, by the way, if they can get a job that pays for college and we can forego the average of $45,000 of college debt that students are raking right now with increasing 15% each year, that's a nice pathway, right? As parents, I can kind of get behind that. I can take Ruby's college fund and go, build an addition to the house or get an RV or something. So this is why we put together a group with the Fairfield County ESC to work on trying to connect that. How do we do a better job of connecting employers to our schools? So we have 2 goals. One is identify work-ready students and connect them with career-based employers. A career-based employers would be a bank, a manufacturer. It would be the hospital. It'd be places where you go in and you're making more than $10 an hour probably. They have tuition reimbursement. You have opportunities to move up. It's not working at a drive-through. It's trying to get students to think about a place where they can go and get college paid for. The other thing is to support schools with curriculum to improve students' work-ready skills. So making sure, and we've learned this from our businesses, making sure that when students graduate, they have the skills that local employers need. So we got together, we've had some meetings with employers, we're continuing to meet. We have another meeting in end of April. An invite will be going out tomorrow. So one of the keys is how do we identify students that are ready for a job out of high school? And how do we learn that they're ready? So what we've looked at is doing a certificate, looking at soft skills, looking to say, okay, this person has the right work ethic. They'd be interviewed possibly by a committee that would talk to them, look at their portfolio. I mean, you saw the groups of students up here. If every one of those students goes to college, that's great. But if there's some that aren't, they're so impressive. How do we make sure we take them and we move them toward a career-based job. I had a local employer that said he put a customer service position out there. He had 10 applications, lowest he's had in years. Yet he went through the drive-through of a local fast food restaurant, and the recent high school graduate that was working the drive-through, he said she was amazing. And all he could think about is, why didn't she apply for my job? I could get her to work for me, and she'd have a great career path. Well, that's what our goal is. How do we connect those? Also, making sure we build that network. And we're looking at possibly a career navigator, which will be somebody that would work with the schools, work with the counselors to say, okay, if you're interested in a career, here are 10 jobs that you can get right out of high school with the high school diploma. And by the way, these also offer tuition reimbursement. So you can get OUL, which is about $5,000 and change a year, get OUL paid for by your employer. So you're making money, you're not incurring college debt, and you're maybe being set up to a much more successful path. So this is the mindset, this is the goal of what we're doing. And then how do we create career tracks? What JB was talking about earlier with manufacturing, he's looking at programs that for 2 years will be part of students' education to get them ready for manufacturing careers, to go work at Midwest Fabricating. That's forward thinking. It's those kind of things that I know a lot of our superintendents are thinking about if they're not already doing them. The state has also put out what's called the Ohio Means Jobs State Readiness Seal. So what the seal does is it focuses on making sure a student has, maybe a career pathway. And this will actually count toward one of the graduation options for students, and it's effective immediately. And what it does is it says, okay, looking at professionalism, work ethic, teamwork, critical thinking, oral and written communication, things that a lot of our employers said are lacking when they're hiring somebody out of high school. So how do we not just build those, but recognize these in our students? So this is a seal that they can get on their diploma, and we're going to incorporate that in our certificate. So if you get our certificate, you also get the seal. So it's a way to, because the seal's pretty basic, to be honest with you. The certificate is a little more in-depth, really making sure these students do have what's needed. Basically, we want the school to say, I would hire Joe or Josephine. I would hire them, so my word is bond. You should hire them too. We're going to support development of work-ready skills. So, working with schools to see how are they currently preparing students for the workforce, sharing best practices among the schools, and connecting businesses to schools so they can offer guidance. Another thing is, and we have Ani and Corey from our Ohio Means Job Center here today, how do we let students know when they graduate, Ohio Means Job Center is a great opportunity to find jobs. They already have connections with local employers. So we're going to look at doing Ohio Means Jobs Days where students can go into the Ohio Means Job Center and learn about interview skills, learn about how do you go on the website, how do you find career paths as an option, so when they graduate, they don't just go off and on their own. They know there's a support system there. So one of the career paths is manufacturing. We have over 4,400 manufacturing jobs in Fairfield County, and we don't have a Fairfield County number for this, but in the state of Ohio, the average manufacturing job pays $58,000 a year. So we need to make sure students know that this is a good path.
More money, less debt. A path to your future. A career in manufacturing will provide you a higher paying job now. It will give you a road to a successful and challenging career. It can help you pay for further education without incurring high levels of college debt. With an average wage of more than $58,000 per year, manufacturing jobs are higher paying than most other industries. And there are plenty of manufacturing jobs and careers available in Fairfield County and all throughout Central Ohio. In fact, there are almost 20 million manufacturing jobs in the entire United States. The jobs are fast-paced and use new technology like 3D printers to create products. And with new measures being taken every year, the jobs are safer than ever.
Every day it's something different. I like the idea of seeing something that I worked on out in the real world. So it's fun to see different parts on different vehicles and say, hey, I helped make that, or I designed that.
There are lots of people.
So that's just a taste. By the way, Luke is our trendy manufacturing. Like, we met him, we're like, you are our face for manufacturing in Fairfield County. And he's cool with it. So, you know, go to fairfield33.com or just go to YouTube and Google Fairfield County manufacturing jobs, and that'll pop up. And this is our way to show students that this is a potential career. We do Manufacturing Day every October. We work with various school districts. This last year it was 5 different school districts, 6 businesses, to show students that manufacturing is no longer that dirty, dead-end, dangerous job that they may think it is. And hopefully they go back and tell their parents the same. We also do Engineering Tech Camp, which was on your seat, so it's either now in your table or you're sitting on it. And this is great. Last year it was for junior high kids. This year we're going to have 2 weeks, and it's free. It's at OUL, at their engineering tech program, because it's a great program and we want students to consider that as a career option. And it's July 9th and July 16th. It's for junior high students, and this year we'll also have a week for high school students. And Gina Orr from OUL and Angela Hoy from Lancaster Schools put this together for us. So it's a great program and really appreciate support. Get the word out there, and it's free. Our goal as a 33 Lions is to bring 7,500 jobs to Fairfield County in the next 10 years. We can't bring those jobs here unless we have people to fill them. And we can't fill those jobs unless we have people skilled and ready to go into them. That starts with the schools. So I really thank the schools with their efforts in trying to get students career ready. I'm excited about the partnerships they're having with education and businesses, and I really want to see that move forward. I thank all of you for your time, and I thank you for doing what you can to help our kids get to work.
For allowing us to host this event and showcase the greatest things going on in Lancaster City Schools, starting with our chamber singers, our culinary arts students, and our criminal science students. And also the opportunity to share with you the great things that are going on in our school district. Certainly with last month's shooting in Florida, school safety is on everyone's mind, and I want to give you an overview of what we're doing in our schools to keep our students safe and secure. Several years ago, all Lancaster schools were modified to include secure entrances, and secure entrances were included in our elementary schools. Our staff and students are trained to respond to an active shooter. And each building has staff members assigned to responsibilities for emergency situations following the National Incident Management System. And these staff members conduct tabletop drills to discuss how to handle and prevent different scenarios. We employ the services of a full-time deputy sheriff and contract with the Lancaster Police Department for coverage in our elementary and junior high schools. We meet periodically with our law enforcement agencies to make sure we're following best practices in responding to emergencies. And let me tell you, we are very, very fortunate in Lancaster that we have 2 outstanding law enforcement agencies, our Sheriff's Department and the Lancaster Police Department. Secure buildings and strong plans with the accompanying training are certainly important, but we recognize that many events are triggered by behavioral issues. And to that end, we work to provide our students with a caring culture in which students have positive relationships with adults and peers. We employ a multi-tiered system of supports for our students in which all buildings have school-wide positive behavior support systems. In addition, all of our elementary students receive second step training. This is an evidence-based social and emotional learning program which includes bullying prevention. And our secondary schools have begun training in the R factor, which is based on the principle that outcomes are determined by a person's response to an event. For students who need more support, we have school-based teams which identify interventions and services to help meet the mental health needs of our students. And this often includes counseling in school with our social workers, our school counselors, and community-based counselors from New Horizons, Mid-Ohio, or Guidestones. And we work with these counseling agencies to come into our schools to provide services to our students who have identified needs. And we're also working with juvenile court, Children's Protective Services, and the ADAM Board on an early warning system to strengthen our partnership to provide mental health services for those students who are in need and also to their families. Now, moving on, one of the most exciting things in our district is our junior high construction project, which will be completed in the summer of 2020. And here is our site plan for Thomas Ewing. The building, there's the front of the building, and it faces the corner of Sheridan Drive and Pleasant Springs Boulevard. The parent drop-off is off of Sheridan Drive, and you'll see that there's plenty of stacking space for cars, and the students coming in here will enter in the rear of the building. The bus entrance is here off of Pleasant Springs Boulevard, and those students will enter into the front of the building. And if you drive out Sheridan Drive, you can see the footprint of this building as it's already laid out. And then we'll have our athletic fields in the back towards the creek. Our General Sherman site plan, which is located on Election House Road, which runs along here, and it's right behind Bob Boyd Ford. The building is orientated toward the northwest and coming up Election House Road. The first entrance is for the buses, and that's right across from Cole Road, and those students will enter in the rear of the building. The parent drop-off is up Election House Road and around the corner on Election House at the top of the property. And again, you can see there's plenty of room for cars to stack, and then they'll be dropping those students off and they'll enter in the front of the building. We have our athletic fields in the upper right area, and we also have a turnaround to Fernwood Drive so that we have connections to River Valley Highland. I'll show you the floor plan section by section, give you a quick overview of what we have in the building here. And I'll start with our section, the 7th and 8th grade section. This is a 2-story section. And we will have social studies and English classes on the first floor, science labs and math classes on the second floor. And the layout looks like this with our classrooms. And then we have an extended learning area, which will be outfitted with technology and seating for small group instruction. We also have our teacher prep area, and we have a multi-purpose laboratory for our students. And both the first floor and the second floor are laid out just like this. Moving into the middle front section that houses the office, media center, and art section, it lays out like this. Here's your main entrance into the corridor. We have a secure entryway that leads into our office area here. To the left is our media center, and we have small group rooms and production labs off to the left here. Moving back this way, we have the hallway which leads to the 6th grade wing here, and behind that is our 2 art rooms. Going back the main corridor and then to the right, this leads into our 6th grade section, which I'll show you in a minute. And also in this area is our multi-purpose lab for the 6th grade building section. And this is where the 6th grade building section is on the footprint of the building. And this is what it looks like. Again, very similar to the 7th and 8th grade section with the extended learning area and the teacher prep area. And remember, the multi-purpose lab is over here. Moving to the rear of the building, we have our gymnasium and mechanical section, and it lays out like this. This would be your main corridor coming down here. Entering into the gym, seating is on this side, locker rooms on this side. Back here is the rear entrance to the building for students, and then it will also serve as an entryway for athletic events and for music performances, which will be held over here in this section of the building, which I'll get to in just a moment. And in the back, we have our mechanical room. And the final section is our music and student dining section. And it lays out like this. And we have spent a great deal of time and added some extra dollars into this area so that we can have, so it can be utilized for student dining during the day and a good performing venue after school for our music performances. So we come into the student dining area, cafeteria here, and then this is our music area with a general music room, choir room, and a large band room, which also serves as the stage. Now on the stage, there will be a movable wall, just like we have in our elementaries. And then for performances, we open up the wall and we have a large stage, large performing stage, large enough for our band, and that stage can be partitioned off so it's smaller for our choirs. Now to turn this area into an auditorium, we've gone to this. This is retractable auditorium seating, which comes out just like your bleachers come out, and then you have auditorium seating. And to make sure that we have the sound proper, we will have acoustical applications on the ceilings and in the walls so that we have a good performing venue for our students. So, Mr. Petchar, you wanted to know about a new high school, right? Yeah, thank you. Thanks for asking. Since you brought that up, I appreciate that. We'll get to that in a minute. I forgot about these slides. Let me show you the outside of the building first. But I appreciate your enthusiasm. If you look at the Thomas Ewing building, this is your view coming up Sheridan Drive. This is the view from the front, the main entrance, and then this is the view from Pleasant Springs Boulevard. And again, the General Sherman building will look just like this as well. Now, to get to Mr. Petchar's question, new high school, okay? It's the final segment of the master plan with the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission, and that plan was approved by the OFCC back in 2008. And it was approved under what's called the Exceptional Needs Program. And according to state regulations, the exceptional need that we had back in 2008 is that we were overcrowded. Now, since 2008, our district has grown by just a little over 400 students, and there are 120 more students out at Lancaster High School. So we were overcrowded in 2008, we're more overcrowded now. The first segment of the plan was the construction of the 5 new elementary schools, and we passed a $61.5 million bond levy back in 2012 to do that. And we are very proud to say that our 2 new junior highs that are currently under construction, we're able to do that without raising any tax dollars, and that's because you supported the renewal of the earned income tax back in 2015. Now the final segment is to build a new high school, and for that we will need to pass a bond levy. So we've already begun preparations for that, for a new high school. We have met with the OFCC to begin that planning process, or actually the pre-planning process, and update our enrollment projections. Now, back to that overcrowded thing. The OFCC co-funds square footage for a building based on enrollment. And based on the district enrollment projections that were done back in 2012 for the junior highs, the square footage for a new Lancaster High School is twice the size of the current building. So this is why we chose to move Thomas Ewing out of here and to a new location. And it's also why we're looking for a new location for our transportation hub, because we want to clear this area out, because a larger high school that's going to sit here, this is the current high school, is going to chew up at least some of these fields. And we need to relocate those fields down here when we're done with the entire project. So there's certainly a lot of questions and, a lot of things that we have to work out yet. But over the next several months, we'll be working with our architect, Tony Shore, in the pre-planning process to determine the amount that we will need to raise for a bond levy and doing some pre-planning. And one of the key considerations in the planning process is certainly the career technical programs, which will all be housed here at Lancaster High School. And that's where our partnership with Mr. Zabreck and the Fairfield 33 Alliance is so important, because it's a great opportunity to build a facility to support career technical programs that are needed here in Fairfield County, and also to partner with any industries who'd like to invest developing students in the workforce. Now, we plan to put the bond levy out next spring, and I can tell you that the bond levy will likely be as large as what the elementary bond levy was. So next spring, you can anticipate a bond levy coming forth for a new Lancaster High School, and we'll be recruiting folks for our bond levy committee. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. Now, we have far too many exciting things that are going on in the district to share with you at this State of the Schools address. So I'd like to end with a video which lists just some of our highlights. All right, on behalf of the Lancaster Fairfield Chamber of Commerce and Lancaster City Schools, I'd like to thank you all for attending this year's State of the Schools address. Thank you very much.
As you can see, we have a lot to look forward to with our school systems here in Fairfield County. I want to also thank you all for coming out today. Stay tuned for some of our other upcoming events, State of the County next month, and many, many more. It was great to see everyone. Thank you for coming.